Today we're going to be talking with someone who is very, very relevant. Kirk Moore, he's an attorney at law. You can find him online at bayareabk.com, bayareabk.com. But before we even get that, he's a bankruptcy attorney. Real quick, Kirk, what is a bankruptcy attorney?
A bankruptcy attorney is someone who helps people file bankruptcy, just make sure everything is done correctly so that it protects their assets, their income, and it basically puts them through the process with as little stress as possible and as correctly as possible.
What's the difference between going with a professional like yourself and trying to do it on your own? I know nothing about filing for bankruptcy, so I'm scared already.
Well, if you go on your own, you are held the same standards as an attorney would be held, and it is a scary process. You know, it's generally not advisable to go on your own. You can do it. If you do it, you do want to make sure you do as much research as possible, but it's always advised to go with an attorney, and usually that'll work out best for you if you do that.
Now, filing for bankruptcy, how does it affect someone's credit? Because I think a lot of people put off filing for bankruptcy because they're fearful of the ramifications.
Well, it is scary because it is on your credit report between 7 and 10 years. But the fact of the matter is bankruptcy actually typically helps most people who are in need to file a bankruptcy, meaning that your credit's already damaged by late payments or foreclosure. So when you file a bankruptcy, it wipes away the bad debt and you get a chance to start building back again with a clean slate. So usually it's about a year or two after you file that your credit's back at least where you were, probably higher than you were. So
let's say you're going through the process. Will all your debts be wiped away? Do certain debts have priority over others? And what do you end up still owing after you file for bankruptcy?
Well, that does depend on the chapter you file. If you file a Chapter 7, which is called a straight bankruptcy, it's going to wipe away all of your unsecured debt, which is credit cards, medical bills, personal loans. What will not be discharged or wiped away in a Chapter 7 would be student loans. Most taxes are non-dischargeable in a Chapter 7, however some are. And any secured asset, cars, houses that you want to keep are not wiped away in a Chapter 7. Chapter 13 is a different ballgame, so depending on which assets you owe, it may wipe them all out. You may end up owing just student loans at the end of the Chapter 13.
I've seen a lot of people send me emails and they got a lot of pie in the sky, like, I want to keep everything and go for bankruptcy. What do you get to keep in bankruptcy? Can you keep your home? Can you keep the cars? What stays with you?
Generally, and this does depend on the bankruptcy file 7 or Chapter 13, but generally, as long as you can afford to make payments on your house and car, you can keep those assets. In bankruptcy, they're not going to look to try to take everything from you. If you have a large amount of assets, then you may end up having to do a 13 to protect those assets. But for the most part, in a bankruptcy, you can keep most of your assets, and most people do keep their assets.
Now, let's slow this down a little bit. Let's talk about the difference between Chapter 7 bankruptcy and Chapter 13 bankruptcy. Which one's appropriate for whom?
Well, it depends. If you're behind on your monthly payments on your house, then you're going to need to do a Chapter 13 in order to help you catch back up. It takes the part that you're behind and it spreads it out over a 3 to 5 year period in the bankruptcy. That way you're current at the time of filing, and then you just keep making your regular monthly payments. There are also some features in the Chapter 13 that if the situation is correct, we can wipe away the second mortgage. Now you do have to qualify for that based on if the value of your house is below what you owe on your first mortgage. Chapter 7, if you're current on your property and you don't have a large amount of equity, which most people don't, like you said, everyone's underwater almost at this point, then as long as you're current, you can keep your house in a Chapter 7 as well.
So filing for bankruptcy has to be incredibly stressful. You see people that come into your office that have to be freaked out of their mind, but when it's all said and done, it's usually a pretty good result and they're pretty happy, all things said, right?
Right. Typically what happens is people come in and they're very nervous and they see me, and rightfully so, and I try to counsel them in a compassionate way so that they understand I'm not just going to scare them as well. I take over the situation and basically walk them through it. At the end, after I've told them the situation, they understand that bankruptcy is usually the best solution. And then at the actual end of the bankruptcy, I usually get emails thanking me for putting them back in a situation where they can start saving again and start living their lives without fear of being sued or garnished, possibly.
And what people have to understand is bankruptcy, I hate to say it, but it's going to be almost in fuego. It's going to happen to a lot of people in this day and age, especially coming out of the dot-com bomb, coming out of the stock market bomb, coming out of the real estate bomb. Let's talk about some tips. Give us some quick tips on bankruptcy issues.
You know, typically when people find out I'm a bankruptcy attorney, they want to know some tips. So I usually give a couple tips. One of them is open your mail. You'd be amazed at the amount of people who don't want to open their mail. And that's understandable because of the fact is it could be scary. So open your mail. You'll know if you've been sued, or you know if you're going to get sued, or if you're in the process of losing your house to a foreclosure. So open it. Then you can take a proactive step. Also, try not to have a credit card or a loan with a bank that you have your checking or savings account with. And lastly, you want to stay current on the assets you want to keep, houses, cars, and then if you can't make all your payments, you would miss the payments for unsecured debts, credit cards, things like that.
Sounds good. Let me give out the address and contact information for those who might need to inquire. Bankruptcy, again, I think I'm not going to say it's here to stay, but it's certainly a sign of the times right now. His office has to be busy. Kirk Moore, attorney at law. You can find him at Bay Area BK, BayAreaBK.com, and it's 877-877-7307. If any of this information you need after the show, just contact me and I'll get it back to you. Kirk Moore, attorney at law. When we come back, more of your phone calls. Don't be shy. 800-440-4884. That's 800-440-4884. Remember, there's no dumb questions, just dumb people. I'll let you know if you're one of them.